Well, what's nice is La Paz and Loreto have international airports from the States. So flights going in every week. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and from Phoenix, definitely you can fly into those towns.
Man, you're about ready to get me to pack my bags right now. Love it.
So where is your business right now? I mean, you're based out of Arizona, but you're primarily still catering to the Californian client?
Yeah, we are. It's I have broker's licenses, obviously in California, which I've had for 22 years. For about 3 years now, I've been licensed also as a broker in Arizona. I am doing some local real estate here in the Phoenix metro area, just, referrals, friends, different things like that. But the core of our business is really just trying to help and service the people who are like, help me, I'm stuck in California. And a lot of it, Nick, and you guys probably hear this, people put up their own roadblocks in their mind because it's so overwhelming to think. Look, if you've lived in a home in an area for 30 to 40 years and you're thinking of moving and you want to go, but there's something that continues just to hold you back.
Welcome to the Nick Fong Podcast. As the broker and owner of Ronival Real Estate, Nick has spent nearly 20 years in Baja California, sir. And in this podcast, he'll be talking everything Baja, from food and culture to real estate and property management. And now, here's your host, Nick Fong.
All right, welcome back to the podcast. And I have a special guest, Scott Fuller. And you might remember Scott from a few years ago. We recorded a video, and it was on his platform, leaving the Bay Area. And Scott, I haven't connected with you for 3 years, or over 2 years at least, since the pandemic. And thought it would be great to have you on the podcast and talk about what's been going on. How are you?
Nick, it's great to see you. I think the last time that I saw you, aside from seeing you on social media, which I see quite a bit, was in person in Cabo, and that was probably just before the pandemic hit.
Was that early 2020 or end of 2019?
That would have been probably fall of 2019.
Yes.
I figured I probably would have seen you a year later, and then everything got kind of messed up. And so it's great to catch up with you, though.
Yeah.
You look just as young as you did like 3 to 4 years ago. Man. At all.
Well, thank you. So, Scott, tell everyone what's been going on with the real estate market in California, because you have leaving the Bay Area, but I think you've been kind of doing offshoots of leaving SoCal and other parts of California.
Yeah, I launched, just to give a brief background, I launched Leaving the Bay Area and leaving SoCal.com about 7 years ago. And, kind of in a nutshell, we get people who are saying, for whatever reason, we're just ready to bounce. We want to get out of here. We help them research areas that they're interested in going to, take them on trips there, help them sell their house, help them buy their house, put together the strategy, the solution, and then a lot of the auxiliary things such as logistics, moving, things like that. There's no shortage of reasons for people to consider leaving California, Nick. And as you probably know, I had lived in California for 35 years. I lived up from Chico when I went to school at Chico State, through Sacramento, the Bay Area, Orange County. So I lived up and down the coast. I love California. Absolutely love it. Beautiful weather, mountains, beaches, everything like that. But over the years, I just, there's some things that kind of, turned me off a little bit. And so my wife and we moved with our family to Arizona, outside of Phoenix, probably about, I guess it's been almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. Feels like it's been longer than that, but it's been about 2 years. So business is great. California's just a very, very dynamic state. A lot of things happening. You read it in the news quite a bit. And so, we're fortunate that we've been very busy. I think we'll continue to stay very busy. And so that's an overview.
So starting 7 years ago, and continuing till today, what have been the reasons why people are leaving California other than relocation for work?
Yeah, great question. I would say, 7 to 10 years ago, it was just a lot of retirees. thinking, hey, you know what? We've made a pretty good amount of money. We've paid off our house on a fixed income, on a little bit of a budget. We've got some retirement goals, destinations we want to go to. Maybe we're going to follow kids and grandkids. That was the majority of it outside of, employee relocation. Probably more 4 or 5 years ago, it started to revolve more around cost of living, cost of housing, taxes. Taxes is huge. So that became kind of a big piece of it. And that was for not just retirees, but also for people, working families, individuals, right, or trying to make a living. And then it really passed along to businesses started seeing, regulations tie in, like healthcare regulations for their employees, taxes. California has almost 400,000 regulatory restrictions, the most in the US. Second to that is New York with only 100,000. So it's really tightened the grip on a lot of people and businesses financially and economically for them to look at it and say, hey, we got to look at some different options, because this really isn't anything long term. What we've seen obviously with COVID, I mean, that changed the dynamic, the trajectory of this amazingly. And so people started saying, the first year or so of COVID, you're kind of in lockdown mode, right? Hey, we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're working from home. And as people started to work from home, these employees developed the expectation to continue to work from home. And really over the last probably 9 to 12 months, employees have gone to their employers and said, hey, look, there's a lot of your competition out there is allowing the flexibility for people to work from somewhere else.
Right.
And I want to take advantage of that, even if you don't actually have a program that you're offering specifically for that. This is something I'd like to do. And so they're reviewing a lot of this on a case-by-case basis. And it's becoming the expectation now, a lot of employees, not just in California, but, around the nation, but obviously tech and financial services tends to lead that a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that's been more of what we've seen really over the last year, in addition to other people who are, looking for different reasons.
Yeah. And where are you seeing your clients moving from California to? What states, countries, et cetera?
States and countries. Let's take that one by one, because that's a great question, Nick. For people who are staying in the States, a lot of it has to do with states that have low or no state income tax. Mm-hmm. So states like Texas, Florida, Tennessee have, and Nevada, that's really been huge. We are seeing kind of a change a little bit in that a lot of these states are becoming more expensive. You looked at the median home price, a lot of these states might have been $300,000-$400,000. And now that's gone up $150,000, maybe $200,000 in a lot of cases. So people are always looking a little bit differently, at what the median home price is going to be, what the cost of living is going to be, what the tax situation is going to look like. But I would say those are probably the top states. And of course, Arizona, which I'm partial to, right. I would say Idaho. And so those are where we're seeing people generally go. What we're starting to see more of, I think, especially with retirees, is they're thinking, with retirees and baby boomers getting used to more of the virtual living environment, right? They've now been on Zoom calls with their kids and grandkids for 2 years. They're realizing, hey, we can now start to live a little bit more remotely, which opens up the opportunity to look at moving out of the US for retirement. I'm not sure if we're seeing that so much with employees, because most employers are still going to, to require you to stay in the US. But for a lot of retirees, they're now looking in Mexico. They're now looking in Costa Rica. They're now looking in some of these other areas. We don't see a lot of people going to Europe. But we are seeing a lot more people who are looking at areas like where you guys are at in Baja, and other places in mainland Mexico, where they're saying, hey, this is an option. This is something that we can do. And we feel like we've started to prep for this type of a lifestyle. And so I'd love to kind of ask you, what are you guys seeing? How has the pandemic changed your business, and who's coming into your area?
So what's interesting, your assessment on international relocation is what we've been seeing a lot of in the last 2 years. Clients that had already purchased property from me years ago and now looking to, use that property full-time as opposed to part-time. And it was always a part of their part-time second home plan, never for a permanent relocation. And then new people coming into the market that never had visited Los Cabos, the Baja. And we just had a client event last week, and I met someone that said they came down and it was their very first trip that they bought something. Never been here. And I asked him, what possessed you to do that? I mean, even I came to Cabo several times before relocating. And they said, well, we had a lot of friends and we that have visited the area, and they were coming from Canada, and they said we were so fed up with the whole political environment in Canada, and we were like, let's go somewhere warm and where it's a much better way of life, lower cost of living, and I met them for the very first time at this client event, and they're loving it. They're actually looking to buy more property, more investments in our area.
That's awesome. It's interesting, Nick, because you mentioned the political piece of it, which I'm not shy about, having a conversation about.
Bring it on.
Look, the reality is that 50% of U.S. citizens don't like who's currently in office.
Right.
That's just how it's always going to be. You had, prior to the election of Donald Trump, you had a lot of people, including celebrities, saying if he gets elected, we're leaving the country, we're out of here. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a lot of them didn't ever leave. Anyway, sidetrack. We're starting to kind of see the same thing now, though, with people who don't like the direction of where the country's going under the current administration. And they're looking at this and they're thinking, okay, I left California to escape the politics. Now, look, there's going to be, I think there's always a good political mix, right? Shouldn't be either side of the spectrum. That's my opinion. But I think that we've become so polarized on both sides that the people who have left California for different values, whatever reasons, politically, are now looking at it and saying the entire country is going that direction. Mm-hmm. We now are considering leaving the country. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had on that in probably the last 6 months that never came up before. So is that a driver for your business?
Yeah, I mean, for our business, it's a conversation that myself and our agents are having more frequently. And I just am thinking, you have a new website, leavingtheus.com, coming. But it's true. And it's not that, I'm an American, will always be an American. My kids are dual citizens, love the U.S., but the day-to-day living and the way you can just wake up, see the sun, see the ocean, and not have the traffic and all the political issues that are going on in the States. I just would love for our clients to check that in at the border, but bring everything else south of the border.
100%. Couldn't agree more with you, brother. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned that you've got a lot of clients who bought as second homes or vacation homes, but it wasn't a primary. They weren't living full time. Obviously, there's certain requirements for them to purchase a second home, but when they now switch that over into a primary residence, what do they have to do to legally live in Mexico in that primary residence? What are the steps that they have to do, or are there?
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that. The podcast I released last week, was it last week, guys? With Eduardo Chavez, immigration attorney here locally in Cabo. He services our clients exactly for that purpose. So Mexico has temporary resident visas and permanent resident visas. Either one of them allows you to live in Mexico legally and without a tourist visa. We all have a tourist visa when we come in as Americans or Canadians into Mexico. You get it on the airplane, and you
That's the blue book, right? That they stamp. That's what everybody has to have.
Yeah. So, and then you turn it back in when you check in, when you depart from the airport, going back to your home city. And that you can get up to 180 days. But the temporary and permanent resident visas allow you to stay indefinitely. And so the temporary you renew every year, permanent you don't have to renew. So similar to the green card that us Americans are used to. But we also have the ability to turn any one of those, temporary or permanent, into working visas. So some of our clients that want to work in Mexico get that working visa and a tax ID number so that they can legally earn income in Mexico.
Hey, thanks for being a part of the Nick Fong Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast to get the latest updates. And if you're watching this on our social channels, please like and share. And if you want to be featured or you want me to talk on a certain topic, food, activities, culture, real estate in the Baja, drop a comment.
Now, do you have clients that are working, that are coming down there seeking employment, or are they all kind of were financially pretty secure?
Literally, Scott, before we hit the go button on this podcast, I got an email from a client, I guess years ago, had been working with, and he and his wife are now relocating from Canada, and his wife wants to work in real estate. Real estate is the hot button right now.
And you know a thing or two about real estate.
Yeah, right. And so we're getting a lot of people wanting to do that. And going back to that client event, I was talking to people that want to get into real estate, and they look to me and my team to see if that's a fit. So whether it's doing that or starting your own business, we have clients that start small bed and breakfasts, hotels, bars, restaurants, any number of things. Now, what you can work in Mexico like virtually with your business back home in the States or Canada, and you don't need a work visa. So that's different, right? But if you work for a Mexican corporation, you do business, buying, selling products or services here in Mexico, you have to get that work visa.
Now, before we hit record on this earlier, you were talking about what's happening in your business. Congratulations, by the way, on your success. I know that you've expanded out. You have several different offices covering a lot of areas of Baja. I've heard that prices have gone up, quite a bit in some of the areas in Los Cabos. Tell me what you would recommend for somebody that comes in and says, hey, we're on a little bit of a budget, so to speak, right? Like we'd love to be on the Marina, Pedregal, some of these areas, but realistically we can't. Yeah. What recommendations, areas would you guys show them?
It's a common thing because a lot of our clients, they hit the pause button on purchasing or researching real estate for the past couple of years. And now they're feeling more comfortable in traveling and looking at real estate. And what happened in our real estate market is exactly what happened in the United States. We follow the U.S. real estate market very closely in parallel. And so we have inventory issues. Resale units are very hard to come by. We have decreased market time, not 1 week market time, but our average is probably 4 to 5 months, where it typically was well over a year in average market time for sold units. And prices have jumped up 50%, I would say, in the last couple of years for most properties. And it is not going anywhere but up. And it is as if we have established, and what I do believe is the new price floor on real estate in our market, much like in a lot of the U.S. markets also. So what I tell my clients is, and what I tell my agents to tell the clients is, start looking in other areas of the Baja. Cabo is what everyone knows, but there are equally beautiful and maybe more attractive areas like on the Pacific in Todos Santos, Cerritos, Pescadero, our capital, La Paz, going as far as 6-7 hours drive from Cabo to Loreto, where it has 5 islands, a magical place. In fact, it's what Mexico calls a magic town, and that's Loreto. And then also on the Sea of Cortez side, the East Cape, where We put a new office a little over a year ago in Los Barriles. That's a huge up and coming area. And a lot of people are getting that beachfront property that they can't get in Cabo, but they can get in the East Cape. They can get on the Pacific for half the price.
What an awesome lifestyle. And you mentioned the islands. One of my favorite things, Nick, is to like seat myself on the certain side of the plane. So when you're flying in down along the peninsula, the Sea of Cortez, you can look down and you can see all those islands. You see just like the crystal blue water. I want to be like dropped off and parachuted on one of those islands. And for some reason, I've heard that they have like tours, and I know I'm going a little off topic, but they've got tours and different things that you can do on those islands. I want to do that sometime. It's just gorgeous.
No, and they have those where you can get on literally a catamaran for a week, and it's a liveaboard and just island hop. And I highly recommend that, whether it's in La Paz, if it's in Loreto, and it could be during the summer, it could be in the winter. It's just, and what's interesting on the Sea of Cortez side, when you go a little bit north, the sand is white sand, and so it's like you're in the Caribbean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So next time you and the family are here, I'll send you up there, or maybe I'll be up there in one of our projects.
I just have to section off like 2 or 3 weeks. That's got to be the key, right? It's okay. We're going to do it. We're going to do it right. It's not going to be like a 7-hour day trip.
No, you have to spend a duration. Well, what's nice is La Paz and Loreto have international airports from the States. So flights going in every week. And so
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And from Phoenix, definitely you can fly into those towns.
Man, you're about ready to get me to pack my bags right now. Love it.
So where is your business right now? I mean, you're based out of Arizona, but you're primarily still catering to the Californian client?
Yeah, we are. You know, it's I have broker's licenses, obviously in California, which I've had for 22 years. For about 3 years now, I've been licensed also as a broker in Arizona. I am doing some local real estate here in the Phoenix metro area, just, referrals, friends, different things like that. But the core of our business is really just trying to help and service the people who are like, help me, I'm stuck in California. And a lot of it, Nick, and you guys probably hear this, people put up their own roadblocks in their mind because it's so overwhelming to think. Look, if you've lived in a home in an area for 30 to 40 years and you're thinking of moving and you want to go, but there's something that continues just to hold you back, totally normal, right? I mean, that's very normal for a lot of people to take that risk, to take that next step. And that's where we really try to come in. And my role, Nick, with the company is consultant. And that's actually what I did back in the 90s. I worked in IT. I was a consultant for companies like IBM, for PeopleSoft. And so I enjoy that kind of work. So it's really kind of helping people to emotionally get past the barriers that they're putting up to allow them to get to where they would like to be. And then helping them to determine where they'd like to be, where might be the best fit. So really, I work as a consultant to talk with them. And I've got, like you, Nick, the best partners all over the US. For people who are in California, we've got the best listing agents who are the people that they would probably already hire because they're the most experienced, highest level of knowledge and expertise in their field. And same thing in all of our other markets that we help people, move to. So it's having, the relationships with guys like you and your team that make it such a great experience that, and I've had clients, come back to me a year or two later and say, Scott, if we hadn't had a conversation with you, we would still be stuck in California because we wouldn't have been able to do it on their own. And again, it's not just the logistical side or, the strategic side of it, but it's getting past your own mind to saying, we can make this happen.
It's interesting because it ends up becoming not a transaction. It becomes a relationship, and you're having to relate and create these relationships with your clients. And you're no longer, it's interesting you say consultant, because you're no longer a real estate agent, which there are 2 million real estate agents in the United States. You go a level above. Yes, you're a real estate agent. So you understand the real estate agent mind, but you're actually filling and servicing a need, which is people are wanting to move out of California into other parts of the United States or outside of the United States. And with your network, you're able to answer pretty much all the questions. And probably, here's an interesting question, Scott. What are some questions recently that you have gotten or situations that were new to you for clients?
Let's see. I'd have to give that some thought. But I think it's really, the dynamics have changed quite a bit, especially with interest rates. So a lot of it comes down to timing.
Mm-hmm.
And, so interest rates have had a lot to do with it, but also just, finding the right fit for people for their lifestyle and for their budget. Mm-hmm. And for me, like a consultant should, be completely impartial, right? And just say, tell me what you're looking to accomplish. And it doesn't matter to me where you go. We just want to get you to the right place that's going to be the next fit for your next phase in life. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish, is to help them make those decisions, but take action.
Yeah.
And I can tell you honestly, we've got a couple clients that we've talked to for 3 or 4 years, and and a couple of them, honest truth, a couple of them are actually, doing some therapy sessions because they're like, I know I need to do this, but I just can't get past this mental block to do it. So everybody has a different way to approach it. It's just making sure that if that's the goal, let's find a way to put it into action.
Right. Cool. Well, Scott, well said. It's great reconnecting with you, and I look forward to seeing you back down in the Bajas hopefully soon. Now that you can fly on an airplane without a mask, I mean, it's pretty amazing. I don't know if you've flown recently, but it's incredible. And
are you still able to do the awesome nasal swab coming back before you get on the plane?
Unfortunately, I think
things.
Let's have a nasal swabbing party down in Cabo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You still have to do that to enter back in the States. But it seems like we're getting back to normal. No?
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Nick, it'd be great to see you again. Nice to see you virtually. Appreciate you having me on, buddy. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
I'll have a cold bucket of beers for you waiting on the marina. So just let me know when you're coming into town.
All right. I'm going to check on the next flight.
All right. And everyone, until the next one, bye for now.
Take care. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nick Fong Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Ronival Real Estate, and follow Nick on Instagram at NickFong_Ronival. Ready to find your Baja dream home? Check out the latest property listings at Ronival.com or findmexicohouses.com. Hasta luego.